Hey, welcome back. This is Rich from Tennessee Homestead. How the heck are you today? This is part two of GMOs versus common sense. And let's talk a little bit about herbicides. Uh, One of the neatest things I discovered in researching this is that these companies use glyphosate as a distraction. True. They have all the researchers chasing around and all the public chasing around looking at that particular chemical, which makes up about 41% of most herbicides. Watch this hand, kind of thing. Look at this. Target your research here. Look at these things while we choke you to death with the other hand. Because that's what's happening. You see, because there is some ingredients that are referred to as inert ingredients. Inert. That sounds like we mix some water and maybe some bug guts in here. Inert. My Aunt Fanny's tush. And they are not inert. But these companies claim that they can't even tell the government what's in it because, after all, it's trade secret. And if we let you guys know what's in it, then that's going to leak out to the world and we're going to be out of business. And after handing, I'm sure, the government enough money, the government agrees. They don't tell people what's in this stuff. A French researcher, and I'm probably going to absolutely screw up his name. I believe it was Sarah Nini or something of this nature. Uh, those inert ingredients began to haunt him a little bit. And so he took his research team and they started in on it. Well, let me tell you something, man. These companies caught wind of that. And suddenly he found his little research grants gone. They cut his fund, trying to shut him down. For a Frenchman, this guy had determination and guts. He went out and did crowdfunding to continue the research. I mean, he went out and bought these products and started doing chemical analysis on it to see what those inert trade secrets were. Okay. And one of the things that he found, well, several of the things he found, but the big one was he found out that these inert ingredients are, what's the best way to say it? 1,000 times more toxic than glyphomate. More toxic than this. Watch his hand over here. And that stuff is not Kool-Aid, folks. It's a serious health risk. So what's these other ones like? One of the toxins that they found in there was a toxin called T2, which has a chemical name about 3.5 miles long. So I'm not even going to attempt that. It's enough to say that this is probably one of the most uh, toxic chemicals known to man for causing cancer. Wow. Particular kind of cancer. It really has its preference, called breast cancer. Yeah. There was a day, and I've lived through this long enough to know, breast cancer was pretty much a female disease. Okay. Due to we don't have functioning mammary glands, and we don't get pregnant and produce milk and things of this nature. I'm not a doctor, so it may be possible if we got you know the right hormones flowing. But basically, we're men are a little different in the hormonal avenue than women, so it hits women pretty hard. But man, I'll tell you what, as the use of this stuff has increased and increased and increased, and more of it's in your food supply, guys, you're not immune. breast cancer in men is becoming a big issue. I know it couldn't have anything to do with those little safe inert ingredients like T2, one of the most toxic chemicals known to man. These are what your inert ingredients, your trade secrets really are. The true poison of this stuff. With that being said, they tried to run this man, discredit him, cut his funding. Welcome to playing ball with the big boys, huh? But he persevered and got his analysis done. Of course, which all the governments immediately rejected as junk science. But you've got the World Health Organization out there who took a look at all the different research. Not only the research itself, but the way the research was conducted, and found out that most of it was not junk science. I guess Monsanto didn't spend enough money at the UN. And they came back and said this stuff definitely causes cancer. And man, let me tell you something, Monsanto has been on the warpath ever since. And they're even doing their own special studies once again to show us that that's just not true. The EPA at one point in our country raised the classification of Roundup because of what the World Health Organization had came up with. And then suddenly the politicians and the lobbyists got involved, and doggone, they didn't relower that classification and get all that information off their website. Monsanto had not presented any research contradictory to what the World Health Organization put out. They just said, they're full of beans. That was good enough for our government, Monsanto says. And we're not alone. I think their initials are like BRI or something like this. It is supposed to be an organization, they're out of Germany, set up by the EU to monitor the ongoing research of these herbicides and so forth. And basically all they do is they take these papers, they find an I that didn't get dotted or a T that didn't get crossed, and they say, that's junk science. Don't take any of the rest of the findings of this research seriously at all. Stamp it in the book, yeah, we saw the research and we rejected it. And then they go to Monsanto and these companies and say, provide us your latest research on this. And they got volumes and volumes and volumes of, oh yeah, we checked it again, it's totally safe. Completely. It doesn't stay in the environment. That's a proven lie. It doesn't affect humans. Once again, that's a proven lie. They're lying to you. And your governments are saying, okay. Okay. The EPA and has, I think, at 1 part per million, what they deem safe. In Europe, it's even lower. It's like 0.01 parts per million. Way low. But yet, humans, you, right now today, if you went down and wanted to pay to have the tests run on it, you'll find that you have glyphosate in your body at much higher levels than what the EPA says is safe. But yet, the government doesn't do anything. They're bought and paid for. Okay? Understand that. That's the first thing you have to understand. And for a long time now, organizations like the USDA and the FDA and so forth have been in these big companies' back pockets, and the politicians are not going to rock the boat because it's money in their bank to them. So keep that in mind, okay? But anyway, the French research showed that this stuff is far, far, far more toxic to human beings than anybody ever dreamed of. And as far as it disappearing in the environment, it doesn't disappear, folks. It sinks. Yeah, that's a kind of a neat little thing about glyphosate is it sinks. Spray it on the surface, sinks down into the soil. Some of it gets absorbed by the plant, but it keeps sinking. It keeps sinking until it hits a hard surface that it has to stop at. Okay? Keep that in mind. And then next year when they spray it again, it sinks. And it keeps sinking until it can sink no further. Then it begins a buildup. And after about 11 years of continuous use of these herbicides, they seem to work their way right back to the surface, to where the soil analysis of the croplands after the growing season are showing these herbicides laying on the surface as potent as ever, went nowhere. Looks like the day they sprayed it. And that's when the fun begins, folks. We in this country could be facing a major food crisis very shortly. Okay? And they're constantly telling the farmer, if you do it our way, we can feed the world. The UN has pretty much proved that most of the food problems in this world are food distribution problems, not the amount of food. And if you apply a little common sense and look, why does the government have to go out and keep buying food to keep the farmer afloat if there's such a shortage of food? There's not a shortage, folks. You have some little dictator over here in the country that the food shipments are confiscated by his military and resold back out on the open market, and his people are starving. And then they come back telling you that, oh, the world's starving to death. Yeah. And we got to do these things to feed the world. These things now are beginning to raise their ugly head. And if we don't do something soon to stop this, feed the world, we won't be able to feed ourselves. Here's a couple of facts. There is a disease in corn called Gauss's bacterial wilt. It's a fungus, bacterial infection that gets into corn and kills it. Okay? Lions and tigers and bears, in most of the farmland, thank heavens, the good microbial bacteria in soil keep that in check to where it doesn't do any damage. The good microbes in the soil. Keep that little topic in mind. And keeps it from spreading. Now, it's found naturally and historically in a couple of small regions up in Nebraska and part of a little tip of Colorado. It's always been there. The soil didn't have enough of the right microbes to keep it in check, and it's always been a problem for the corn crops. That's nature, folks. Okay? This pathogen has got a toehold up there. And because there's the areas outside of that, the good microbe population is strong enough to keep it in check. I had, when I worked at the Air Force Hospital, I'd met a fellow who told me once that he was a biologist, and he said that it was through biology he found God. I question that, because back then I was not a good Christian man. I was a biker and a heck on two legs. Okay, little on the mean side. And this fellow told me, trying to convert me, that in nature, in microbiology, you have good bacteria and you have pathogens, bad bacteria. And he said through the study of that, he discovered that through the good bacteria, you're given health and life. They produce your food, they put the nutrients in your food, and they process that in your body, and so forth. And if you took that good out, then the bad runs amok. And the bad is death and destruction. That was a spiritual avenue that he looked at it. But in nature, that is exactly what happens. Take away the good microbes that keep the pathogens in check, and now you have pathogens which run amok. So let's look at this gas bacterial wilt. It's a pathogen that in a very small section of this country has historically run amok. So farmers avoided corn crops in those areas. Very simple. Now, suddenly they're finding this is spread. And now it has encompassed Nebraska, a larger section of Colorado. But worse than that, they found it now spreading into Kansas, Illinois, Idaho, or not Idaho, Iowa, Indiana, Oklahoma, Texas. From a very small geographical area, it's spreading. Why? Thought the good pathogens, the good microbes kept that in check. Let's move along. Soybean is now being faced with a fungus, which is spurred by a bad pathogen, once again, that is now cropping up all over the place. I think they call it fusarium, nicknamed sudden death syndrome, because in the middle of the growing season, this fungus attacks, comes up out of the ground, and kills soybean crop. And 9 times out of 10, if you have that pop up in your field, you're going to lose about 40% of your crop. And that's after treating it with fungicides and so forth. Nasty stuff. Pathogens, once again, gone wild. So why is this happening? And it's happening all over the place. Nobody's wanting to talk about it because it can affect our exports and it can affect agriculture straight across the board. So everybody's like, let's keep this a secret. But there's a lot of companies researching it right now. And here's what they're finding, folks. Remember me telling you how these herbicides build up? Herbicides, proven by our FDA, by the way, because Monsanto made a whoops. Shouldn't have done that. A while back, Monsanto submitted Glyphomate to the Food and Drug Administration as a drug, an antibiotic. What does antibiotics do? They kill bacteria. Okay? They found out, because the bar for herbicides is here as far as the FDA is concerned, and the bar for drugs is up here. When they did the analysis on glyphosate as a antibiotic, a human drug, they were flatly rejected by the FDA because they said, no, this stuff kills your good bacteria in your body. It would wipe out the good bacteria in your gut. Nobody at the FDA saw that was a problem for approving herbicides that does the same thing. But that's different. We were paid well for that one. I guess Monsanto didn't put enough money up for the other one. I don't know. So now you're talking about a chemical that is proven to wipe out good bacteria, allowing pathogens. One of the things the FDA said about this whole thing allows the pathogens inside the body to run amok, grow, multiply, do damage. In the soil, in our croplands, this level has built back up and has killed the good microorganisms. That's what they're finding. And the pathogens have grown, multiplied, and are doing what pathogens do best. Now they're starting to bring death and destruction. Hello. What happens when this affects the entire corn belt and soybeans and our production that the GMO crops brought us to, where it was tripling the yields that farmers have, and now most of that's been taken away by disease. diseases caused by the very products that these plants were designed to grow in. When this continues to spread and gets worse in these fields, and it's beginning to panic a lot of these agricultural researchers, they're digging big holes out there in the fields going, why? And how long is it going to take to fix this? No amount of fertilizer seems to help. None. They can dump fertilizer out there until they're blue in the face. It's not even slowing this stuff up. You have a plague, man-made plague, that is affecting your food. Folks, if this is not fixed and this continues to grow, our diet in this country is primarily, if you're buying in the grocery stores, is primarily soybean, corn, and wheat. And when you spread that out, you look at the meat products, the dairy products, the poultry, it's all interconnected on the large factory farms. When these crops go down, folks, prices go up. If it gets bad enough, prices go up to where, unless you're in the high triple, 6-digit figure incomes, you're not going to be eating quite as much as you used to, because you're not going to be able to afford it. You probably won't be buying much beef because you won't afford it, or pork. You're doing good if you can afford chicken leg every now and again, because as these grains are getting killed off, the prices are going to keep going up and up and up and up. And then there may come a time where, I don't care how much money you have, there's nothing to buy, folks, nothing to buy. And as of right now, the current situation, they don't have a fix, because they're finding out that some of these bacteria and so forth are very resistant to stuff like fungicides and things of this nature that did keep them in check before. Mother Nature is stepping up, going, I'm about to show you who's boss. And in this last 2 months, let me explain something to you. It is my firm belief, right here, and from everything I've read in God's Word, He will not destroy this planet again. We will. Famines, they're promised to us. We are generations apart from people who went through the Depression. There was starvation in this country during the Depression. We have allowed and sat back and watched as this has transformed our agricultural system. An agricultural system that not only is now killing us with the diseases it's causing, but an agricultural system that is teetering on an edge of oblivion. Because when these pathogens take over that soil, you're talking about decades before it ever stops. It'll be dead soil. Nothing you can do with it. The only thing that'll grow there will probably be super weeds, because Mother Nature will adapt them to use the pathogens. Be advised. It's time to wake up. And if you think you need to get out and start being a homesteader and grow your own food, now's the time. As I said in the first video, they're after your food stream. From seed to grave, they want to control it. You better get busy. You better try to make sure that you have laid in a solid stock of non-GMO seed and heritage seed, that are still out there and available as quickly as you possibly can. I don't care if you don't have a spot for a garden, you might want to start buying seed for the day that you do, or the day that you have to. It's that serious. These two diseases alone, and I guarantee you these pathogens are going to come up with new ones, are beginning to take its toll on agriculture. Two diseases that are spreading all over the place because we're killing our cropland. We're killing the good microorganisms, and the pathogens have taken hold. And with pathogens brings illness, death, and destruction. We will destroy this planet if we keep going, or at least destroy us. I can guarantee you that once it stops, Mother Nature will kind of dust her hands off and say, okay, now we'll fix this. And she will fix it. We just won't be here to see it. Okay? Wake up. It's time to stop it now. How do you stop it? Don't buy it. Walk away from the grocery stores and walk out to your local farmers that are doing this right. Okay? They're struggling. Okay? You talk to any of these little organic farms out there, they struggle to make a living. They're not getting rich by any stretch. You better find out quickly that if you want to have a healthy life and a long life and not a disease-ridden life, you better get your tush out to your local farms. Find the organic growers and start buying from them. And yeah, it's inconvenient. And yeah, it's expensive. And yeah, it's a pain. And yes, it's not going to fit into your busy lifestyle. You might miss a soccer game or two, or the latest episode of Dancing with the Stars, or whatever your latest flick is on TV. But your children will grow up healthy. If you're in your 30s, you've probably already done enough damage to your body that it's going to take quite a while for you to, you're still going to face these diseases. If you have small children, you might be able to turn it around for them and give them a healthy life. Think about it, folks. Start taking action today. Not tomorrow, today. Find your farmers. It's going to take you a while before you find ones that you trust. Visit the farms. Okay? Not just their websites. Visit the farm. Meet the farmer. See what their attitude is toward this stuff. It could save your children's life. Okay? And when we get into the health issues, if that doesn't panic you, then either you are the most non-caring individual I've ever ran across, or you're just dumb as a box of rocks, because the evidence is there. But we're killing our farmland. We're killing our crops. And pretty soon, we're not going to be able to grow enough food on these mega farms to feed you, much less the world. Keep that in mind. On that cheery note, this is Rich from Tennessee Homestead. I hope this finds you having a blessed day. And we'll talk to you soon.